Hello you beautiful people. Today we are ranking the 9 villains present in Ratchet and Clank Future A Crack in Time, which many of you may know is probably my favorite game in the series. Yeah, you might be asking, how are there 9 villains? Well, there pretty much are 9 villains. Let me explain. I consider a character a villain if that character interacts with our heroes in cutscenes, and if those characters have evil intentions, cause duh. Both Ratchet and Clank don't have to fight against said character, they just have to be an antagonist. However, enemies such as the hypersonic brainwave scrambler are not considered a villain here, as they have no character whatsoever. Same with the VX-99 in Axiom City. These are just machines, they don't have a character. I'll be ranking these villains based on how menacing they are, how funny they can be, and especially how impactful they are in the story for our heroes. Obviously this is highly subjective on my part, but hopefully you guys think that my opinion is mostly correct. I really love all these characters, so I'm not going to be too harsh. But a ranking is a ranking, and well, I'll have to critique and justify my ranking. Anyway, with those rules out of the way, let's rank these great antagonists.
Well, hello there.
Carina!
Bonjour.
Bottom last, arguably the worst and most inconsequential villain on this list, and potentially the series. Well, until we reach our number 8, that is. We have Carina. She's one of the 3 Valkyrie leaders that we meet in the game, and honestly, there isn't much to say about her. She shows up to cause some menial trouble to Ratchet in his pursuit for Clank, and her boss fight is really boring in my opinion. I also think there was a big wasted potential, not just for her, but also for the rest of Valkyries. Feels like something was missing, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Her boss stage was also very dull, and with barely any character to begin with. This is an easy pick for the last place, at least for me.
Bonjour.
And Libra.
Hey, how you doing?
So look, the only reason I chose Libra over Carina on this list is due to a very simple scene. It seems really stupid on my part to rate a villain over another just to a singular shot, but like every time this scene comes up I'm reminded of how I used to laugh when I was younger because it was so unexpected. Other than that, there's not much to say. Her boss fight is equally as boring as Carina's in my opinion, despite thoroughly enjoying the space battles overall in Crack in Time. And beyond her unexpected low-pitched voice, there's not much of a character here to dissect and analyze really. She kinda reminds me of Helga, and just makes me sad that Helga was not in the game, but oh well.
Attention, miserable creatures. This is Commander Argos. Pursuant to Article 17 of the Authority Code of Interstellar Acquisition.
Moving on to number 7, I guess this one can come up as a bit of a surprise to some, but I do consider Commander Argos a villain of sorts. He wreaks havoc on the fungoid village of Gimlick Valley when Ratchet and Clank get stuck there after being caught by Nefarious. Meeting this all-powerful commander when going back in time but 10 years, after hearing his story from a displaced fungoid, was a neat concept. Though the boss fight is nothing to write home about, having the cocky villain reduced to a squeamish and pathetic mama's boy who is really satisfying. Especially when you go back to the present day and the fungoids repeat his last words while he strolled around looking for a new ship. He provides some levity before things get very personal for our heroes, but overall, not a memorable villain, but a fun one that can be laughed at and that is satisfying enough to defeat.
Bringing in specialists. Cassiopeia.
Well, hello there.
So for number 6, the only one of the 3 Valkyrie leaders that has any sort of high level impact on the story. Cassiopeia is a menacing villain who holds Clank hostage and threatens to kill him in front of Ratchet on planet Vapedia. Well, it is interesting how Nefarious recruits these villains to work for him, promising to bring back their long lost colony with the power of a great clock, even though we know he's not going to do it. It's a shame that this wasn't developed any further. Cassiopeia's taunts throughout the level, as well as her presence in the cutscenes, made her a good enough opponent to defeat. While she seemed menacing enough, I still felt barely any motivation to defeat her, and her demise ultimately left me unimpressed if anything. Still, I quite enjoyed her boss fight, and I can't lie, like with other Valkyries, I did enjoy the few cutscenes that she was in. Feels like there was more to both her and the other Valkyries, a bit of a waste of potential really. But still, I just can't justify putting her up any higher.
Release the war Grak!
Just cracking the top 5, we have probably the funniest character, apart from another higher up this ranking. The War Grok, or Snowball, as Quark later adopts it, had more character development than Cassiopeia. Secondly, I love this character. Every time Snowball shows up, I just giggle like a little child. I always have the biggest smile, especially when Snowball is trying to eat Ratchet, while Quark gives a heartfelt speech to the arena that they're fighting in. While originally a quote-unquote villain, or a creature our heroes have to defeat, tamed by Quark, we get attached to this lovable creature. Every scene that he's in, he's the spotlight, and for that reason alone, had to put him this up on the list. I'm hoping that someday we get to see him again because he was so funny, even though he tried to eat Quark at the end, really. We are still yet to learn how Quark survived this, by the way.
Hey, easy on the goods! Prepare to be killed by... Wait for it... Lord Vorsalon!
So this is where I think a big gap is created between the good and the mid villains in this game. First introduced through a blink and you'll miss it announcement of planet Visceron, back in Tools of Destruction. Lord Vorsalon is a pathetic villain who keeps showing up throughout the story to mess up your plans to retrieve Clank from Nefarious. You fight him 3 times on his battleship, and honestly, I don't know why, but I always look forward to this every playthrough. The way he skips in his little pod when you defeat him every time, the satisfaction of popping his head in the final encounter, and the ability to finally shut him up when he keeps narcissistically flaunting himself, it's gold. While not the funniest character on the list, he still has his moments, particularly in the introduction and when he is reporting to Nefarious. He also shows a serious menace to our heroes, even capturing Azimuth at one point, which is something not even Nefarious or the Valkyries were able to do. Creative new character that I can say I wouldn't mind seeing in a future installment, hopefully with the same narcissism and patheticness.
I'm sorry. Were you in the middle of something?
So just about in the top 3, just as witty and simply a delight to encounter during gameplay and cutscenes, Lawrence is the ultimate show stealer for the limited screen time he has. This was the case with Ratchet and Clank 3 and it's the same here too. Despite not being the evilest character in the series, this butler is quite devious and gets a lot done considering his overlord. From spying and kidnapping Clank to cleaning the Nefarious space station, this robot can do it all. While I think he was funnier in Up Your Arsenal, I always look forward to his scenes. It's a shame really that we get as little as we do from him, and that he doesn't show up in Rift Apart. But hey, that is life.
And you, my dear boy, look just like your father.
A broken Lombax. Alistair Azimuth is perhaps one of the best overall characterizations in the entire series. A secluded Lombax with a dark past, Azimuth anxiously awaits his chance for redemption after dooming his entire race, and does everything in his power to correct his biggest mistake. It's his complexity and matureness that makes him such a riveting and compelling character. For one, he's not a comic relief villain, which is a rarity in this series and a breath of fresh air really. Even his comedic moments, his snappy remarks are appropriate and not cartoony. The close connection he develops with Ratchet slowly turns into a surrogate father-to-son relationship. Ratchet seeks this connection ever since he was a child, and Azimuth fulfills this role excellently. It's still shocking when he turns against Ratchet at the very end of the game, despite making sense, but this moment has always thrown me off guard really. The purposefulness in his eyes, the shame, the determination to rectify his mistakes. He risks the stability of time and the universe just for the slight chance to save his race from all the suffering that he inadvertently inflicted. His boss battle is also a great experience. Azimuth is hard to hit as he moves too fast to get a clean hit, and his staff consistently deflects your weapon blast, which makes it so much more difficult to defeat him. One of the best in the series, a true head-to-head really, a Lombax versus Lombax battle. This is another character that I hope one day gets brought back. I know he's dead, but still, anything can happen. Nefarious came back a bunch of times. If anything, the themes that this character introduced would be lovely to be reintroduced, potentially with Rivet or even Ratchet taking Azimuth's role.
Lawrence, I'm rehearsing my epic romantic action comedy space opera!
Look, was there any doubt in anyone's mind? While Azimuth came close when I was evaluating the different villains, he is just not Nefarious. This iconic villain has been a main staple in the series, and his performance in this game solidifies his status as the funniest villain in Ratchet and Clank. He is still very menacing, don't get me wrong. He shines in all the scenes he's in, either due to the comedic timing or his pure intimidating evilness. While his connection to Ratchet isn't as deep as Azimuth, they still share a rivalry that spans decades in the game's timeline. After Ratchet stranded Nefarious on an asteroid in Up Your Arsenal, he ended up crash landing in a fungoid settlement. After learning about the power of the Great Clock, Nefarious plans to take over the universe and defeat Ratchet over and over again as his cold revenge, going back in time to destroy his archenemy after every defeat. Obviously, he lost. It's also obvious that they were going to bring back this character for multiple installments after this. He's just too good. But in my opinion, I think this is where he is best characterized and most entertaining. A considerable adversary for sure, stealing every scene he's in with his manic behaviors and love for Lance and Janice. What isn't there to love about our Mad Doctor? No, please tell me, I don't know. And that's the list. I hope I didn't offend too many people with my ranking choices. Don't know if these are the right choices, just know that they are the ones that I feel to be true. Still, would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Hope the quality of the videos are good enough and that you guys enjoyed the video. With that said, love you guys and we'll see you later.